It's 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday, deep inside the sprawling fortress of SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. The air hums with the low, steady drone of cooling fans, a faint tang of metal polish and solder lingering like a ghost of the day's relentless work. Fluorescent lights flicker overhead, casting long, jagged shadows across a hallway that stretches endlessly into the dark, its tiled floor gleaming under a thin layer of dust and ambition. The only sound breaking the silence is the rhythmic squeak, squeak, squeak of a cleaning cart's wobbly wheels, pushed by a man who's been at it for hours. Long after the engineers, the coders, the dreamers have clocked out and gone home. Miguel Cortez is 55, a janitor with a decade of dust and grime etched into his being. His black hair streaked with gray like storm clouds over a desert. His back a knot of pain that throbs with every step after a double shift that started at dawn. His uniform's faded, the SpaceX logo a ghost of blue stitching on his chest, and his hands, calloused, rough, cracked from years of gripping mops and wrenches, carry the weight of a life spent working, always working, never stopping. Miguel pauses near a vending machine, its faint electrical buzz a companion to his solitude, a tired hum that matches the ache in his bones. He wipes his forehead with a rag from his back pocket, the sweat beating despite the cool, recycled air pumping through the building. His eyes, dark and deep-set, reflect an exhaustion that's more than physical. It's the kind that sinks into your soul when you're carrying a family on your shoulders, when every day is a tightrope walk between hope and collapse. He reaches into his cart, past the bleach bottles, the crumpled paper towels, the half-empty spray cans, and pulls out a small, worn photo. Creased at the edges from years of handling, the colors faded like an old memory, but the faces sharp as knives in his mind. There's Rosa, his wife of 27 years, her smile soft but strained, her cheeks hollowed by 3 years of fighting lupus, a disease that steals her strength, her days, her light. Next to her stands Lucia, their 17-year-old daughter, tall and proud in her school uniform, clutching a science fair trophy with a grin that could light up a blackout, her braids swinging like she's ready to take on the world. "Almost done, mi amor," Miguel whispers to the photo, his voice a low rasp. Roughened by years of dust and quiet prayers, he sends up to a God he's not sure is listening anymore. Just a few more halls, then home. He's here late because the extra hours mean something. Money that turns into pills for Rosa, into textbooks for Lucia, into a shot at a life beyond this endless grind. Every squeak of that cart is a prescription filled. Every mop stroke a step closer to sending his girl to MIT, where she dreams of building things that matter. He tucks the photo back into the cart, safe between a roll of trash bags and a bottle of glass cleaner, and grabs the mop, its handle worn smooth by his grip. He starts on a stubborn coffee stain, someone's late-night fuel splattered across the tiles, a dark smear against the white. The mop sloshes, water pooling in little gray ripples, and he mutters to himself, "No matter what it takes, Lucia's going." She's smart, scary smart, the kind of kid who sees solutions where others see junk. 3 science fair wins in a row, her latest a water filter made from sand, charcoal, and crushed shells she scavenged from the beach near their Tucson apartment. College-level work, her teacher had said, eyes wide with awe. Miguel believes it, has to believe it. It's the fuel that keeps him moving when his body begs him to stop. The hallway lights flicker brighter, pulling him back to the cold reality of this endless night. Footsteps echo, sharp, deliberate, cutting through the hum like a blade, coming closer, steady and unhurried. Miguel tenses, his grip tightening on the mop handle, and he shoves the cart aside with a quick nudge of his hip, scrubbing harder at that coffee stain, even though it's long gone. His heart thuds in his chest. Security, maybe? A stray engineer who forgot something? He keeps his head down, eyes locked on the tiles, focusing on that already clean spot like it's the most important thing in the world. The footsteps stop a few feet away, and a voice slices through the silence. "You're here awfully late." It's low, clipped, tinged with a curiosity that's not accusing, not yet. Miguel looks up, slow and cautious, and his breath catches in his throat. Standing there, hands stuffed into the pockets of a rumpled black hoodie, is Elon Musk. Dark circles etched under his eyes like bruises, hair mussed as if he's run his hands through it a dozen times, looking like he hasn't slept since last week, maybe longer. Miguel's seen him before, a blur in the hallways, a figure on a screen, but never this close, never speaking to him. "Just finishing up, sir," Miguel stammers, his mouth dry as the desert outside, his tongue sticking to the roof of his mouth. Elon nods, those piercing eyes flicking over the scene. The cart with its chipped paint, the mop dripping gray water, the photo peeking out from its hiding spot among the cleaning supplies. He starts to walk past, his sneakers silent on the tiles, then stops abruptly, turns back, his head tilting slightly as if he's solving a puzzle. "I've seen you here before," he says, almost to himself, his voice quieter now, thoughtful. "Always late." Miguel swallows hard, his pulse a drumbeat in his ears. "I like the quiet, sir," he says, a half-truth that rolls off his tongue easier than the real one. A shield he's used 1,000 times to dodge questions he doesn't want to answer. Elon's gaze lingers, sharp and unreadable, a laser cutting through the dim light, then lands on the photo resting atop the cart. He steps closer, too close, and picks it up with careful fingers, holding it like it's a fragile prototype instead of a beat-up snapshot. Miguel tenses, a flare of protectiveness surging in his chest, but he doesn't dare protest, not to Elon Musk. "Your family?" Elon asks, studying Rosa's strained smile, Lucia's triumphant grin, the trophy gleaming in her hands. "Yes, sir," Miguel says, his voice softening despite the knot in his stomach, pride slipping out unbidden like a leak he can't plug. "My wife Rosa, she's sick. Lupus. Been fighting it 3 years now. And my daughter, Lucia, she's 17. Wants to be an engineer." The words spill out, rough and raw, and he can't stop them. "She's smart, won the science fair 3 times running. This year, she built a water filter, sand, shells, stuff she found. Judges said it's college level." Elon's eyebrows lift, a spark flashing in those tired, shadowed eyes. Something Miguel can't place, something that looks like recognition, or maybe hunger. "A water filter?" Elon repeats, handing the photo back with a gentleness that surprises Miguel, his fingers brushing the edge as if reluctant to let it go. "Tell me about it." Miguel blinks, his mind stumbling over the request. Sir," he starts, his voice cracking like dry earth. But Elon cuts him off, patting the bench along the wall with a casual flick of his hand. "Sit," he says, settling onto the bench himself, elbows resting on his knees, his posture open but commanding. Miguel sets the mop against the cart with a soft clack, wipes his sweaty hands on his pants, leaving faint streaks on the faded fabric, and perches on the edge of the bench, leaving a wide gap between them, his body stiff as if he might need to bolt. "She used sand, charcoal, cloth layers," he begins, his voice shaky at first, unsteady like a car with a bad starter. "But the trick was the shells. She crushed them up. Something about calcium," she said. "Cleans dirty water cheap, real cheap." Elon leans forward, his hoodie rustling faintly, and starts asking questions. Good ones, sharp ones that cut to the core. "How'd she test it? What's the flow rate? Could it scale up?" Miguel forgets the mop, the late hour, the ache in his back. He's just a dad now, bragging about his girl, his Lucia, the kid who takes after him with her knack for fixing things, only better, brighter, bolder. For 20 minutes, time slips away. The hallway fades, the squeaky cart goes silent, and it's just them, 2 men on a bench, talking about sand and shells and a dream that might just work. "She's remarkable," Elon says finally, standing up, that spark still flickering in his eyes like a live wire. "Good night, Miguel." He walks off, his footsteps fading into the dark, leaving Miguel staring after him, puzzled, a little dazed. Why'd he care? Why'd he listen? He shrugs. Rich folks are weird, unpredictable, and grabs his mop, the handle cool against his palm. One more haul, then home to Rosa, to Lucia, to the life he's fighting to hold together. What he doesn't see, what he can't possibly know, is Elon pausing upstairs, stepping into the dim glow of his office, the walls lined with blueprints and screens blinking with data. He pulls out his phone, the screen casting a harsh light on his tired face, and dials a number, his voice low and urgent when the line picks up. "Find everything on Miguel Cortez," he says, the words clipped and precise. "Family, finances, daughter's projects. Everything you can dig up. I need it by morning." The line clicks off with a faint beep, and Elon stares out at the parking lot below, the asphalt glinting under sodium lights, his mind racing with something bigger than rockets, something that started with a squeaky cart and a faded photo. The clock ticks past midnight as Miguel Cortez pushes his squeaky cart down the last hallway of SpaceX's Building A, the air still thick with that metallic tang of polish and the faint buzz of machinery winding down. It's Thursday now, less than 24 hours since Elon Musk sat with him on that bench, asking about Lucia's water filter with an intensity that felt out of place in the dim, empty hallway. The memory clings to Miguel like dust he can't sweep away. Those sharp questions, that spark in Elon's tired eyes, the way he said remarkable, with a weight Miguel can't decipher. He shakes his head, gray-streaked hair falling into his face, and mutters, "Crazy night," under his breath, the rasp of his voice swallowed by the hum of the cooling fans overhead. The mop sloshes against the tiles, leaving a wet sheen that glints under the flickering lights, and he tries to focus. Finish the haul, clock out, get home to Rosa and Lucia. But there's a restlessness in him, a nagging itch he can't scratch, like a gear out of alignment he hasn't found yet. Why'd a man like Elon care about a janitor's kid? Why'd he listen for 20 whole minutes when he could have kept walking? He reaches the end of the hall, where a vending machine stands like a tired sentinel, its glass front smudged with fingerprints from engineers too rushed to care. Miguel pauses, fishing a quarter from his pocket, a ritual after a long shift, a cold Coke to wash down the dust that coats his throat. He slides the coin in, but it jams halfway, the machine letting out a weak bzzz before going silent. "Come on," he grumbles, smacking the side with his palm, nothing. He glances around. No one's here, just him and the shadows stretching long across the tiles, and pulls a small screwdriver from his cart, tucked behind a bottle of Windex. It's a habit from his mechanic days in Mexico, always carrying a tool, always ready to fix what's broken, even if it's just a stubborn machine. He pops the panel open with a soft click, the hinges creaking faintly, and peers inside. A loose wire dangles, its insulation frayed, sparking against the metal frame. "There you are," he murmurs, his calloused fingers moving with a precision that feels like an old friend. Twist, tuck, secure. The machine whirs back to life, the quarter drops, and a Coke thunks into the tray. Miguel grabs it, the can icy against his palm, and takes a long sip, the fizz bubbling up his nose, sharp and familiar. "Fixed," he says to no one, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Small victories matter when the big ones feel like distant stars. Back home in Tucson, the apartment's quiet when he slips in at 1:30 a.m., the door creaking on rusty hinges as he eases it shut. The living room's dim, lit only by a flickering bulb and a lamp Rosa's been meaning to replace. The air heavy with the smell of burnt toast from breakfast and the faint antiseptic tang of her medicine lingering like a shadow. He drops his keys on the counter, a chipped formica slab that's seen better days, and tiptoes past Lucia's room, where her science fair trophy gleams on a shelf, catching the light like a tiny beacon of what could be. In their bedroom, Rose is asleep, her breathing shallow but steady, her dark hair fanned across the pillow, a bottle of pills on the nightstand glowing faintly in the moonlight that seeps through the blinds. Miguel stands there a moment, watching her chest rise and fall, the ache in his back fading as relief washes over him. She's still here, still fighting, still his Rosa. He slips off his boots, the soles worn thin from years of pacing these halls, and climbs into bed, the mattress sagging under his weight. Sleep pulls him under fast, but that itch, Elon's voice, that spark, those questions, follows him into his dreams, a quiet hum he can't silence. Friday morning dawns gray and sluggish, the Tucson sky streaked with clouds that promise rain but rarely deliver, the air outside their apartment thick with the dry bite of desert dust. Rose is up before Miguel, her hands trembling slightly as she pours tea into a chipped mug, the steam curling up like a ghost in the cool kitchen air. She's 52, her face lined with years of worry and pain. But there's a softness to her today, a flicker of energy Lupus hasn't stolen yet, a spark that reminds Miguel of the woman who danced with him under lantern light in Mexico decades ago. The phone rings, shrill, jarring, cutting through the quiet like a blade through cloth. She sets the mug down, tea sloshing over the rim onto the counter, and answers, her voice soft but steady. "Hello? Yes, this is Rosa Cortez." Her eyes widen, her free hand gripping the counter's edge, knuckles whitening against her brown skin. "Dr. Patel? A program?" "Yes, I understand. Thursday?" Miguel stumbles in from the bedroom, his lunchbox in hand, still in yesterday's shirt, the SpaceX logo faded across his chest like a memory. He catches her stunned look, the way her mouth hangs open, and his heart sinks. Bad news again. Another bill, another setback? "Rosa, what's wrong?" he asks, dropping the lunchbox on the table with a dull thud, his voice rough with sleep and a fear he can't shake. She turns to him slow, like she's moving through water, her dark eyes shining with something he hasn't seen in years. Hope, fragile but real. "Nothing wrong," she says, her words deliberate, disbelieving, as if testing them aloud might break the spell. "A specialist from the university hospital. They're starting a new lupus program, experimental, something promising. They picked me, said it's random. Free." Miguel frowns, stepping closer, the linoleum cold under his socks. sticking slightly where juice spilled weeks ago. Free? How's that work? A research grant, she whispers, twirling a strand of hair around her finger. A nervous habit from their early days together when life was simpler, lighter. They think it could reverse some damage, give me back some good days. She stands, shaky but determined, and twirls. Slow, wobbly, her nightgown fluttering like a flag caught in a faint breeze. It's not graceful, not like those nights they danced under the stars. But it's a twirl, a defiance of the disease that's chained her to bed too many times, and it steals the breath from Miguel's chest. A miracle, she breathes, grabbing his hands, her skin warm against his calluses, her grip tight with a strength he'd almost forgotten. Miguel squeezes back, his mind spinning. Random? Free. His gut twists, that itch flaring again, sharper now. Maybe, he says, forcing a smile for her sake, but his thoughts drift back to that hallway, to Elon's steady gaze, those questions about Lucia that felt too pointed to be casual. He kisses her forehead, the faint scent of her tea clinging to her hair, grabs his lunchbox, and heads to SpaceX, the Tucson sun climbing higher, baking the asphalt outside their peeling apartment complex into a shimmering haze. The day shifts routine, mopping, sweeping, emptying trash, but his mind's elsewhere, replaying that bench talk over and over like a loop he can't stop. Did he say too much? Did Elon hear something in his voice? A desperation, a dream, that stuck with him? He's wiping down a break room table, the cloth snagging on a splinter, when his phone buzzes in his pocket. An old flip model, cracked but functional, a lifeline to Rosa. He flips it open, her voice brighter than the morning sun cutting through the clouds. Miguel, they want me in Thursday. First treatment's next week. Dr. Patel says early results are good, really good. He leans against the table, the wood cool under his palm, and exhales, a weight lifting he hadn't realized he was carrying. That's amazing, mi amor, he says, meaning it, his throat tight with relief. But that itch digs deeper, a quiet suspicion he can't name. Random selection doesn't feel random. Not after Wednesday night, not after those 20 minutes that shouldn't have mattered but somehow did. Saturday's quiet. Lucia's at a friend's, working on a physics project with her usual focus, and Rosa's resting, a rare smile on her face as she flips through a magazine on the couch, her tea untouched on the coffee table, the steam long gone. Miguel's in the kitchen, fixing a leaky faucet. Another small victory, water dripping slower now, the plink-plink fading as he tightens the last bolt with a wrench he keeps in a drawer. He's wiping his hands on a rag, the metal tang of the tool lingering on his fingers, when the doorbell buzzes, sharp and insistent, cutting through the stillness. Frowning, he tosses the rag on the counter and opens the door. A delivery guy, barely 20, thrusts a sleek package at him, its surface smooth and black, a Tesla logo faint in the corner. For Lucia Cortez, the kid says, already halfway back to his van, his sneakers slapping the pavement. Miguel signs, the box heavy in his arms, and sets it on the table, Rosa peering over his shoulder, her curiosity a quiet hum beside him. "What's this?" she asks, her voice soft, cautious, her fingers brushing the edge. "No idea," he mutters, slicing it open with a kitchen knife, the blade catching faintly on the tape. Inside, a laptop, shiny, expensive, the kind Lucia's stared at through store windows, bundled with engineering software, manuals thicker than his fist. A note slips out, typed on crisp paper. "Your projects show promise. Here's a tool to build more." Ing. Rosa gasps, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes wide with wonder. Elon Musk. Miguel stares at the note, the letters sharp against the white, his pulse quickening, a drumbeat in his chest he can't ignore. "Could be," he says, voice low, that itch turning into a burn, a fire he can't put out. Lucia's not home to see it yet. She'll lose her mind when she does, her dreams suddenly closer than ever. But this isn't random either. First Rosa's treatment, now this? He sinks into a chair, the package gleaming under the flickering bulb overhead, and runs a hand through his graying hair, the strands catching on his rough fingers. "What's he doing?" he whispers, half to Rosa, half to himself, the question hanging in the air like dust caught in sunlight. She sits beside him, her hand on his arm, warm and steady, her touch an anchor in the storm brewing inside him. "Maybe he just likes helping," she says, soft, optimistic, her voice a bomb he wants to believe. Miguel nods, but his gut screams otherwise. Those questions, that spark, that late-night talk weren't nothing. Something's moving, something big, and he's caught in it. A man who spent a decade being invisible suddenly feeling the weight of being seen. Far away, in the cold glow of SpaceX's upper floors, Elon's office hums with the quiet chaos of screens and blueprints. A coffee mug cold on his desk, the walls lined with visions of Mars and beyond. It's 2 a.m., Friday fading into Saturday, and he's still there, scrolling through a file his assistant rushed to him by dawn, Miguel Cortez. 10 years, perfect attendance, overtime king. Rosa, lupus, $20,000 in debt. Lucia, straight A's, water filter patent pending. He taps his fingers on the desk, a restless rhythm against the wood, and mutters, talent hiding in plain sight. He dials a number, his voice sharp when the line picks up. Start project night shift. Medical program for Rosa, make it look random. Scholarship for Lucia, full ride MIT. And get me her filter specs. His assistant yawns faintly on the other end. Now, Elon snaps, hanging up, his eyes locked on that file, on a janitor who's more than he seems, a spark he can't let flicker out. Sunday morning creeps in slow and heavy, the Tucson sky a dull gray blanket that presses down on the apartment complex, the air thick with the promise of rain that never seems to fall. Miguel's awake before the sun, lying still beside Rosa, her soft snores a fragile rhythm against the silence. The mattress creaks under him, the springs worn from years of restless nights, and he stares at the ceiling, tracing cracks that spiderweb across the plaster like the lines on his hands. That sleek black package, Lucia's laptop, sits on the kitchen table, its presence a quiet weight in the apartment, a question he can't answer. Rosa's twirl yesterday, the hope in her voice about the treatment, the note signed EM. It's all too much, too fast, like gears clicking into place in a machine he didn't build. He rolls out of bed, careful not to wake her, his bare feet cold against the linoleum as he pads to the kitchen. The faucet he fixed drips once, a faint plink in the stillness, and he tightens it again, the wrench cool in his grip, grounding him in something he can control. Lucia bursts through the door at noon, her braids swinging, her school bag slung over one shoulder, her eyes bright with the kind of energy only 17 can carry. "Mom, Dad," she calls, her voice cutting through the quiet like sunlight through the clouds. Miguel's at the stove, stirring rice and beans, the steam rising with a faint earthy scent that fills the small space. Rosa's on the couch, her magazine abandoned, her smile widening as Lucia drops her bag and rushes to the table. "What's this?" she asks, her fingers brushing the box, tentative, like it might vanish if she touches it too hard. Miguel turns off the burner, the click sharp in his ears, and joins them, wiping his hands on a rag. "Came yesterday," he says, his voice low, steady, though his chest tightens. "Open it." Lucia tears into it, the tape ripping with a soft screech, and pulls out the laptop, its surface gleaming under the flickering bulb overhead, a stark contrast to the chipped mugs and peeling paint of their home. She gasps, her hands trembling as she lifts it, then digs deeper, uncovering software manuals and that crisp note. "Your projects show promise. Here's a tool to build more." "Ing. Elon Musk," she whispers, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief, her eyes darting to Miguel, then Rosa. "Dad, did you?" He shakes his head, the rag twisting in his hands. "I didn't do anything, Mihija. Just talked to him, Wednesday night late. About your filter." Lucia's jaw drops, the laptop forgotten for a moment. "You talked to Elon Musk? About me?" Rosa stands, her nightgown rustling, and moves to Miguel's side, her hand resting on his arm, warm and steady. "He said she's remarkable," Miguel murmurs, the word heavy on his tongue, echoing in his mind like a bell he can't unring. Lucia's grin splits her face, and she hugs the laptop to her chest, then him, her arms tight around his neck. "This is MIT stuff, Dad, real engineering. I can't believe it." Her excitement fills the room, a light Miguel clings to, but that itch, that burn, digs deeper. A talk shouldn't lead to this, not this fast. Monday hits like a jolt, the alarm blaring at 5:30 a.m., pulling Miguel from a dream of endless hallways and sparking wires. He's back at SpaceX, the night shift grinding on, but his supervisor, Jerry, catches him in the locker room before he grabs his cart. The space smells of sweat and metal, lockers dented from years of use, the air cool and stale. "Good news, Miguel," Jerry says, peering over his glasses, his voice gruff but not unkind. "You're reassigned engineering lab day shift, building C, pays up 30%. Miguel's stomach drops, then flips, a wave of dizziness washing over him. "Why?" he manages, his throat dry, the question sharp in his mouth. Jerry shrugs, scratching his bald spot. "Budget thing, they need someone reliable. Start tomorrow, 8 a.m. Miguel nods, his mind racing. Day shift? More money? and stumbles through the rest of his shift, the squeaky cart a lifeline he grips too tight. That night, over dinner, rice and beans, a rare extra helping. Rosa claps, her eyes bright, and Lucia peppers him with questions. Will you see rockets? Robots. I'm just cleaning me, Hija, he laughs, but his chest swells, pride mixing with unease. 3 changes in a week. Treatment, laptop, this. Coincidence? Or something else? Tuesday morning, 8:02 a.m., Miguel steps into Building C, the locker room sterile, the air sharp with the scent of disinfectant and new paint. His new uniform's crisp, the SpaceX logo bold on his chest, a blue that feels too bright against his graying hair. Janet, his supervisor, walks him through the lab, a vast space buzzing with the clatter of tools dropping, the sharp tang of solder smoke stinging his nose, whiteboards scribbled with equations he can't read, but somehow feel alive. Don't touch desks, don't unplug anything, she warns, her voice clipped efficient. Engineers work late, clean around him. They won't notice you. Invisible, he thinks, the word a stone in his gut, familiar but heavier now. He starts with the bathrooms, easy, routine, the mop's rhythm a comfort, then moves to the lab floor, sweeping around workstations where young folks in hoodies hunch over screens and prototypes, their voices a low hum of frustration and focus. He pauses by a water purifier, complex, sleek, like Lucia's but bigger, its hum a steady pulse. A cooling system looms nearby, radiator-like, its metal warm to the touch. And in the corner, half hidden by a tangle of cables, a mechanical arm twitches. 5 engineers surround it, their voices sharp. Pressure sensors are fine. It's the joint, jerky as hell. They test it, lifting an egg. It cracks, yolk splattering across the floor, a wet splat that makes Miguel wince. He edges closer, broom in hand, watching from the shadows as they argue. The arm fights itself, misaligned, off by a hair, like a car's bad he fixed a dozen times in Mexico. He knows that glitch, feels it in his bones, but he sweeps the yoke away, silent, unseen. Lunch break comes. He sits alone in the break room, a sandwich half eaten on the table, the bread dry in his mouth. His mind drifts to the arm, to that vending machine he fixed, to the wrench in his cart he didn't bring today. The engineers give up by 6 p.m., leaving eggshells and curses behind. Tomorrow, one grumbles, their footsteps fading. Alone, Miguel hesitates, then steps to the arm, its metal cool under his fingers. He sees it, a joint a millimeter off, fighting itself. His hand twitches, itching for a tool, but he stops, heart pounding. Touch it, and what? Lose this job, this pay, Rosa's pills? He backs away, finishes his shift, and drives home, the desert night pressing against the truck's windows, the stars cold and distant. At home, Rosa's awake, her tea steaming on the table, her smile soft as he walks in. How is it? She asks, her voice a bomb. Different, he says, sinking into a chair, the laptop's glow catching his eye. Lucia's at her friends again, sketching dreams he can't yet see. Good different. Rosa presses, her hand on his. Maybe, he murmurs, but that burn flares, treatment laptop job. Now this arm he could fix but didn't. Sleep eludes him that night, the ceiling cracks staring back, whispering questions he can't answer. What's moving here? What's pulling these strings? In SpaceX's upper floors, Elon's office glows with the flicker of screens, blueprints pinned to the walls, a half-empty coffee mug cold on his desk. It's 3 a.m., Monday bleeding into Tuesday, and he's watching security footage. Miguel sweeping near the arm, pausing, his hand hovering, then pulling back. He sees it, Elon mutters, a faint grin tugging his lips, the file on his desk open to Lucia's filter specs, Rosa's medical forms. He dials his assistant, voice low. Phase 2, get him to conference room B tomorrow, 9 a.m. Don't say why. The line clicks off, and he leans back, eyes on the screen, on a janitor who's more than he knows, a spark he's fanning into flame. Tuesday night settles over Tucson like a heavy shroud, the desert air cool and dry, the stars sharp against a sky that feels too vast, too indifferent. Miguel lies awake again, the mattress creaking under him, Rosa's soft breathing a steady anchor beside him. The ceiling cracks stare back, mocking his restless mind, their jagged lines mirroring the questions that twist inside him. Rosa's treatment, Lucia's laptop, the new job, that mechanical arm he didn't fix. Sleep eludes him, slipping through his fingers like sand, and by 4 a.m., he gives up, rising silently to sit at the kitchen table. The laptop's box sits there, its sleek edges catching the faint glow of a streetlight seeping through the blinds, a silent reminder of something he can't grasp. He runs a hand through his graying hair, The strands course against his calluses and wonders, not for the first time, what he's stepped into, what's pulling him forward when all he's ever done is push a mop and pray. Morning comes too fast, the alarm blaring at 6 a.m., a harsh jolt that drags him back to SpaceX. He's in Building C by 8 o'clock, the lab buzzing with its usual chaos. Tools clattering onto metal tables, the sharp sting of solder smoke biting his nose, engineers muttering equations he can't follow. Janet's voice echoes in his head. They won't notice you. And it's true. He sweeps around them, a ghost in blue, the broom's bristles whispering against the tiles. But his eyes keep drifting to that mechanical arm in the corner, its jerky movements a quiet taunt. He saw it yesterday, misaligned, fighting itself, a problem he could solve if he dared. He didn't dare, not then. But the itch is a burn now, a fire in his hands that won't let go. Lunch break finds him alone again, a sandwich on the table, the bread sticking to the roof of his mouth as he stares at nothing, picturing the arm, the joint, the fix he knows by heart from years of coaxing life back into broken machines. At 8:50 a.m., Janet finds him near the bathrooms, her clipboard tucked under her arm, her voice cutting through the hum. Conference room B, 9 a.m. They want you there. Miguel freezes, the mop handle slick in his grip. Who? He asks, his throat tight, a knot forming in his chest. Upstairs, she says vague, her eyes already on her next task. Don't be late. She's gone before he can ask more, leaving him standing there, water dripping from the mop onto his boots, a slow plink-plink that mirrors his pulse. Conference room B, glass walls, a place for engineers, not janitors. His mind races. Did they see him near the arm? Is this the end, the firing he's feared since he touched that vending machine? He sets the mop aside, wipes his hands on his pants, the fabric rough against his skin, and heads to the room, each step heavier than the last, the lab's noise fading behind him. The conference room looms ahead, its glass walls cold and gleaming, reflecting the fluorescent lights like a mirror he doesn't want to face. He knocks, the sound weak against the thick door, and a voice calls, "Come in." Inside, 3 figures wait, Elon Musk leaning back in a chair, his hoodie rumpled, his eyes sharp despite the shadows beneath them. A woman with a tablet, Dr. Chun, her name tag reads. Her face calm but unreadable. And the lead engineer from the ARM project, a lanky guy with glasses, his fingers tapping nervously on the table. "Sit, Mr. Cortez," Elon says, gesturing to a chair, his voice low, steady, the same tone from that hallway bench. Miguel perches on the edge, his hands shaking, clasped tight in his lap to hide it. "I heard you fixed something," Elon starts, his gaze piercing, pinning Miguel like a wrench on a bolt. Miguel's stomach lurches, while rising in his throat. "I'm sorry, sir. I shouldn't have touched it," he stammers, the words spilling out, raw and panicked. "The arm," the engineer cuts in, leaning forward. "Our best couldn't fix it. You did, in 5 minutes." Miguel blinks, his breath catching. "I didn't," he starts, but Elon raises a hand, silencing him. "Security footage," he says, nodding to Dr. Chin. She taps her tablet, and a grainy video plays. Miguel at the arm yesterday, hesitating, his hand hovering, then walking away. "You saw it," Elon says, not a question, his eyes locked on Miguel's. "What was wrong?" Miguel swallows, the room shrinking around him, the air thick with the scent of coffee and tension. "The joint," he says, voice small and steady. "Off by a hair, fighting itself like a car with bad alignment." The engineer nods, almost eager. "Exactly what we found, after you left." "How'd you know?" "I was a mechanic," Miguel murmurs, the past rising like dust in his throat. "Mexico, 12 years. Fixed worse." Dr. Chun tilts her head, her pen poised over the tablet. "No degree?" "No," he says, shame creeping in, but Elon cuts through it, sliding a folder across the table, its edges crisp against the glass. "Open it." Miguel does, his fingers trembling as he lifts the cover. SpaceX logo, bold and blue, a job offer staring back. Technical advisor, mechanical engineering. Salary, 5 times his janitor pay, numbers that blur in his vision. "What?" he gasps, the folder slipping slightly in his grip. "No degree. Talent trumps paper," Elon says, his voice firm, unshakable. "You see what PhDs miss. Start Monday." Miguel's head spins, the room tilting, the folder heavy in his hands like a dream he's afraid to hold. "Why me?" he whispers, the question raw, desperate, a plea for something to make sense. "Talent shouldn't mop floors," Elon replies, his eyes steady, piercing. "It should solve problems." The engineer grins, Dr. Chin nods, but Miguel's chest tightens. Relief, yes, but fear too. A fear of stepping into a world he doesn't know, a world that's noticed him when he spent a decade being unseen. He stumbles out of the room, the folder clutched to his chest, the lab's noise crashing back around him. Clatters, curses, the hum of machines. Janet waves him off. Finish early today. And he drives home, the desert sun dipping low, painting the sky in streaks of orange and gold. The apartment's quiet when he walks in. Rosa at the stove, the smell of simmering beans filling the air. Lucia at the table, her new laptop open, her fingers flying over keys. You're early, Rosa says, turning, her smile soft, questioning. He sets the folder down, the thud loud in the stillness, and sinks into a chair. They gave me a job, he says, voice thick, unsteady. Technical advisor, 5 times the pay. Rosa gasps, her spoon clattering into the pot, and Lucia's head snaps up, her eyes wide. Dad, what? Engineering lab, he murmurs, the words foreign on his tongue. Because I saw something, an arm broken. They saw me see it. Rosa moves to him, her hands on his shoulders, warm and grounding, her breath catching. Miguel, this is. She stops, tears brimming, and Lucia jumps up, hugging him tight, her laughter a bright burst in the dim room. You're an engineer now, Dad, like me. He holds them both, the folder's edge digging into his side, but that burn doesn't fade. It grows, a fire of doubt and wonder. 3 miracles, treatment, laptop, this, too neat, too tied to that night he mopped a hallway and talked about shells. He looks at Rosa, her hope a fragile light, at Lucia, her dreams spilling out, and wonders what's next, what price this costs, what machine he's now a part of. At SpaceX, Elon watches the conference room footage, Miguel's shaking hands, his stunned face, the folder sliding across the table. Phase 2 complete, he mutters, a faint grin tugging his lips, the file on his desk thick with notes. Rosa's treatment schedules, Lucia's filter designs, Miguel's overtime logs. He leans back, the chair creaking, and stares out at the night, the parking lot glinting under sodium lights. Talent shouldn't wait, he says to the empty room, his voice a quiet vow, a spark fanning into something bigger, something Miguel can't yet see. Wednesday morning breaks over Tucson with a reluctant sun, its light filtering through the blinds in thin, dusty streaks, painting the apartment in shades of gold and gray. Miguel sits at the kitchen table, the folder from SpaceX open before him, its pages worn from his restless fingers tracing the words. Technical advisor, mechanical engineering. The numbers blur in his vision. 5 times his janitor pay, enough to bury the debt, to fill Rosa's pill bottles, to send Lucia to MIT without scraping by. Rosa's at the stove, humming a tune from their early days in Mexico, the sizzle of eggs and the warm scent of coffee filling the air, a rhythm that feels both familiar and strange. She's steadier today, her hands less shaky, her twirl from days ago lingering in Miguel's mind like a promise he's afraid to trust. Lucia's still asleep, her laptop humming faintly from her room, a soft glow seeping under the door. She stayed up late, sketching designs, her dreams spilling onto the screen. He sips his coffee, the mug warm against his calluses, the bitterness grounding him as his thoughts churn. Yesterday's meeting replays in his head. Those glass walls, Elon's steady gaze, the folder sliding across the table like a key to a door he never dared knock on. Technical advisor, not mopping floors, not sweeping eggshells, but fixing things, solving problems, being seen. The pride swells in his chest, a quiet fire, but it's tangled with something colder, doubt, a shadow that whispers he doesn't belong, that this is too big, too sudden. Rosa sets a plate before him, eggs, beans, a tortilla folded just how he likes it, and brushes his shoulder, her touch light but sure. You're quiet, she says, her voice soft, her dark eyes searching his. Just thinking, he murmurs, forcing a smile, the tortilla warm in his hand. Big day Monday. She nods, sitting across from him, her tea steaming between them. Big life, she corrects, her smile a fragile light, and he wants to believe her, wants to let the shadow fade, but it clings like dust he can't sweep away. The weekend blurs. Lucia's excitement over the laptop fills the apartment, her voice bright as she shows them sketches of filters and gears, her braids swinging with every gesture. Rosa starts packing for Thursday's appointment, her suitcase open on the couch, a small stack of clothes folded with care, her hope a quiet hum beneath her movements. Miguel fixes a wobbly chair, the screwdriver steady in his grip, the creak silenced with a twist, a small victory to steady his nerves. Monday looms, a horizon he can't see beyond, and by Sunday night, he's awake again, staring at the ceiling, the cracks deeper in the dark, the folder on the nightstand a weight he feels even in sleep. Rosa stirs beside him, her hand finding his, warm against his cold fingers. "You'll be good," she whispers, half asleep, her faith a lifeline he clings to as dawn creeps in. Monday arrives, sharp and unrelenting. The alarm slicing through the quiet at 5:30 a.m. Miguel's at SpaceX by 7:45, Building C buzzing with a new energy, the lab alive with the clatter of tools and the low hum of machines waking up. His uniform's gone, replaced by a collared shirt, blue and crisp, the SpaceX logo bold on his chest, a badge clipped to his pocket, Miguel Cortez, technical advisor. The locker room smells of metal and coffee, the air cool against his skin as he adjusts the collar, the fabric stiff against his neck. Dr. Chen meets him at the lab door, her tablet in hand, her voice calm but brisk. "You're with me today, orientation, then work." "Follow." He nods, his boots heavy on the tiles, and steps into the lab. A vast space of chaos and creation, solder smoke curling in the air, whiteboards smeared with equations, prototypes scattered like pieces of a puzzle he's meant to solve. She leads him to a workstation. Tools gleam under the lights, wrenches and pliers lined up like soldiers. A screen flickering with schematics he doesn't fully understand. "You'll assist on the ARM project," she says, tapping the tablet, pulling up a blueprint of the mechanical limb he saw last week. "It's stable now, your fix, but we're refining it. Adjustable, durable, cheap. Your input matters." Miguel stares at the screen, the lines and angles a language he feels more than reads, his mechanic days in Mexico whispering back. Cars, tractors, anything with a heartbeat he could mend. "What do I do?" he asks, voice low, uncertain. "Look, test, suggest," she says, her eyes steady. "You see things, use that." She leaves him there, the lab swallowing her footsteps, and he's alone with the arm, its metal cool under his fingers, its movements smooth now, no jerk, no fight. He adjusts a joint, testing its range, the click soft in his ears, and feels it, the fire in his hands, the burn of knowing he can. The day stretches long. Engineers drift by, some nodding, others ignoring him, their voices a hum of terms he half grasps. Torque, pressure, calibration. He listens, watches, his hands moving when they let him, tweaking a gear here, tightening a bolt there, the work pulling him in despite the shadow in his chest. By 5 p.m., his back aches, his shirt's wrinkled, but the arm lifts smoother, holds stronger, and Dr. Chen nods as she passes. Good start. He drives home, the desert dusk ablaze of red and purple, the truck's engine rumbling steady under him, and walks into the apartment to Rosa's arms, her smile bright, Lucia's chatter filling the air. "First day, tell us." Lucia demands, her laptop open, her eyes wide. He sinks into a chair, the folder tucked away, and talks about the lab, the arm, the tools in his hands again. They laugh, eat, the beans warm on his tongue, but that shadow lingers. Why him, why now, what's next? Tuesday night, Rosa's on the phone with Dr. Patel, her voice rising with quiet joy. Thursday's confirmed. Treatment starts next week. They're hopeful, Miguel, really hopeful. She twirls again, steadier now, her nightgown catching the light, and he holds her, the shadows softening in her glow. Lucia shows him a filter sketch, sand, shells, a design sharper than before, the laptop's screen a window to her future. "This could work anywhere," she says, her pride a mirror of his own, and he nods, the fire in his chest flaring brighter. But sleep brings the shadow back, the ceiling cracks whispering. What's the cost? What's the catch? What machine turns these gears? At SpaceX, Elon's office hums in the dead of night, screens casting a cold glow over blueprints and files. Rosa's medical updates, Lucia's filter specs, Miguel's first day notes from Dr. Chen. It's 2 a.m., Tuesday fading into Wednesday, and he's there, coffee cold on his desk, watching footage of Miguel in the lab. His hands steady on the arm, his focus sharp despite the hesitation in his eyes. "He's in," Elon mutters, a faint grin tugging his lips, the folder thick with plans, Project Night Shift, Phase 3. He leans back, the chair creaking, and stares out at the parking lot, the sodium lights glinting off asphalt, his mind racing with what's coming, what Miguel can't yet see. A spark growing into a flame he's determined to fuel. Wednesday morning dawns crisp and clear over Tucson, the desert sun climbing slow, its light slicing through the apartment's blinds in sharp, golden bars. Miguel's at the kitchen table, his coffee cooling in a chipped mug, the SpaceX folder tucked away, but its weight still pressing on his mind. Rosa's in the bedroom, packing her suitcase for tomorrow's trip to the hospital. Her first treatment looms, a fragile hope stitched into every folded shirt, every quiet hum of her voice. Lucia's at the table too, her laptop open, her fingers dancing over keys as she refines her water filter sketch, the screen glowing with lines and angles that feel like a future Miguel can almost touch. She's 17 but carries a fire he recognizes, his own, sharper, bolder, unburdened by the years that gray his hair and bend his back. "Look, Dad," she says, turning the screen, her braids swinging. Added a pressure valve, doubles the flow. He leans in, the coffee's bitterness lingering on his tongue, and nods, pride swelling in his chest. "Smart me, Hija," he murmurs, his voice low, warm. But that shadow, that doubt, curls tighter, whispering questions he can't shake. The drive to SpaceX is quiet, the truck's engine a steady rumble under him, the desert stretching wide and empty, the sky a blue so deep it hurts to look at. Building C greets him with its familiar chaos. Tools clatter onto metal tables, solder smoke stings his nose, engineers argue over schematics in a language he's starting to catch fragments of. His collared shirt feels less stiff today, the SpaceX logo a badge he's beginning to wear, not just carry. Dr. Chen finds him at his workstation, her tablet in hand, her voice brisk. "Arms progressing. Your tweaks yesterday helped. Today we test durability." She hands him a wrench, its metal cool and heavy, and steps back, her eyes steady, expectant. Miguel grips it, the tool an extension of his hand, and turns to the arm. Its joints gleam under the lights, smooth now, no jerk, a machine he's claimed in ways he didn't expect. He tests it, lifting weights, 5 pounds, 10, 20. The clicks soft in his ears, the movements precise, a rhythm he feels in his bones. "Stronger," he says, almost to himself, and Dr. Chen nods, tapping her tablet. "Good eye," she says, and walks off, leaving him with the arm, with the fire in his hands that burns brighter each day. The lab hums around him. Engineers drift by, some pausing now, their nods less curt, their questions sharper. "What's the torque limit? Can it flex more?" He answers when he can, his voice halting but sure, his mechanic past rising like dust he brushes off, not buries. By noon, the arm lifts 30 pounds without strain, its joints holding steady, and a young engineer, glasses, hoodie, claps him on the shoulder, a quick, awkward pat. "Nice work, man," he says, disappearing into the chaos, and Miguel freezes, the wrench still in his hand, the words echoing in his head. Nice work, not sweeping, not mopping, but building. The pride flares, bright and fierce, but the shadow twists, 10 years unseen, and now this, all from a hallway talk he didn't seek. He eats lunch alone, the sandwich dry in his mouth. The break rooms hum a distant drone as he stares at the wrench, its shine catching the light, a tool he's wielded 1,000 times, but never like this. Afternoon brings a new task. Dr. Chen pulls him to a meeting, a small room off the lab, its walls lined with screens, its air thick with coffee and tension. 5 engineers sit around a table, the arm's blueprint glowing on a monitor, its lines sharp against the dark. "Cost," Dr. Chen says, her voice cutting through the hum. "It's durable, but too expensive, $2,000 per unit. We need it under $500, scalable for kids." Miguel shifts in his chair, the leather creaking under him, his hands clasped tight to hide the tremble. Kids, prosthetics for kids, not just lab toys. The weight of it hits him, a stone in his gut, and he listens as they argue. Titanium's too pricey, hydraulics too complex. "What about aluminum?" he says, the words slipping out, quiet but firm, his voice a stranger in the room. They turn, eyes sharp, and he swallows, the wrench's ghost still in his palm. "Lighter, cheaper. Used it on cars in Mexico. Flexible if you reinforce it right." Silence, then the lead engineer, glasses again, nods slow. "Could work. Less weight, less cost. Test it." Dr. Chen's pen scratches her tablet, her glance brief but approving, and Miguel exhales, the shadow retreating, the fire holding steady. He drives home under a sky streaked with pink and gold, the desert dusk a quiet blaze, the truck's rumble a comfort he clings to. The apartment's warm when he walks in, the smell of simmering beans and roasted chiles wrapping around him like Rosa's arms. She's at the stove, her suitcase packed by the door, her smile bright as she turns. "Last night home till Friday," she says, her voice soft, steady, a strength lupus hasn't stolen today. Lucia's at the table, her laptop humming, her filter sketch sharper now, a valve glowing red on the screen. "Dad, look, it's ready," she says, her eyes wide, her pride a mirror of his own. He sets his keys down, the clink soft against the formica, and joins them, the beans warm on his tongue, their laughter a balm against the day's weight. "They liked my idea," he says, the words slow, testing, and Rosa squeezes his hand, her touch a lifeline. "Of course they did. she murmurs, her faith unshakable, and Lucia grins, her braids bouncing. You're fixing the world, Dad, like me. Sleep comes easier that night, Rosa's warmth beside him, Lucia's trophy gleaming in the moonlight through the blinds. But the shadow lingers, a quiet hum beneath the fire. Treatment, laptop, job, now this, a chain of miracles too neat, too tied to that night he mopped a hallway and talked about shells. Thursday morning, he drives Rosa to the hospital, the suitcase rattling in the truck bed, her hand steady in his as they walk into the sterile white of the waiting room. Dr. Patel greets them, his voice calm, hopeful. Early trials, good results. We're optimistic, Mrs. Cortez. Rosa nods, her smile fragile but real, and Miguel kisses her forehead, the antiseptic tang sharp in his nose, before she's wheeled away. He drives back alone, the truck's silence heavy, the desert stretching wide, and spends the day in the lab. Aluminum tests, the arm lighter now, his hands sure despite the ache in his chest. Friday night, Rosa's back, her steps slow but her eyes bright, her voice soft as she sinks into the couch. Felt good, tired but good. Lucia's at her side, the laptop glowing, and Miguel cooks, eggs, tortillas, a meal to hold them together. The weekend stretches calm. Rosa rests, Lucia sketches, Miguel tinkers with a lamp that flickers, the screwdriver steady in his grip. But the shadow grows, a whisper in the quiet. What's next? What's the cost? What machine spins these gears? At SpaceX, Elon's office glows in the dead of night, screens casting a cold light over files. Rosa's treatment logs, Lucia's filter updates, Miguel's aluminum notes. It's 1 a.m., Friday fading into Saturday, and he's there, coffee cold, watching footage of Miguel in the lab, his hands on the arm, his voice in the meeting, a janitor turned spark. He's ready, Elon mutters, a grin tugging his lips, the folder thick with plans, project night shift, phase 3 escalation. He dials his assistant, voice sharp. Prep the launch, prosthetics and filters, global scale. Cortez family's the core. The line clicks off, and he stares out at the parking lot, the sodium lights glinting, his mind racing with a vision Miguel can't yet see. A flame he's fanning into a fire that could light the world. Monday morning spills over Tucson with a fierce sun, its heat baking the desert into a shimmering haze, the air thick with dust and promise. Miguel's at the kitchen table, his coffee steaming in a chipped mug, the SpaceX folder tucked into a drawer, but its echo loud in his mind. Rose is in the bedroom, unpacking from her hospital trip, her steps slow but steadier, her voice carrying a tune he hasn't heard in years. A sign the treatment's sinking in, a fragile light he holds close. Lucia's at the table too, her laptop open, her filter sketch now a 3D model spinning on the screen, its valves and layers sharp and real. Dad, it's done, she says, her braids still, her eyes bright with a fire that mirrors his own, his mechanic hands, her engineer's mind, fused into something bigger. He leans in, the coffee's warmth seeping into his calluses, and nods, pride a quiet blaze in his chest. Beautiful mihija, he murmurs, his voice thick, but that shadow, that whisper, curls tighter, a thread he can't cut. Too much, too fast, too tied to a night he still doesn't understand. The drive to SpaceX is a blur. The trucks rumble a steady pulse under him, the desert stretching wide, the sky a blue so vast it swallows his thoughts. Building C buzzes with a new intensity. Tools clatter louder, solder smoke bites sharper, engineers move faster, their voices a hum of urgency he feels in his bones. His collared shirt fits now, the SpaceX logo a badge he wears with less hesitation, his hands steady as he steps to his workstation. Dr. Chen's there, her tablet glowing, her voice crisp. Aluminum worked, costs down to $450. Now we scale, prosthetics for kids, global. Your call on joints. Miguel grips a wrench, its metal cool and familiar, and turns to the arm. Its frame lighter now, its movements fluid, a machine he's shaped with every tweak, every test. He adjusts a joint, the click soft in his ears, and tests it, 40 pounds, no strain, no fight. Reinforce here, he says, pointing, his voice firm, sure, a mechanic's instinct honed over decades. Dr. Chen nods, her pen scratching, and walks off, leaving him with the arm, with the fire in his hands that burns brighter than ever. The lab pulses around him. Engineers lean in now, their questions direct. Stress points. Flex range. He answers, his voice steady, his past rising like a tide, cars fixed under Mexico's sun. Engines coaxed back to life, machines he understood without books. By noon, the arm's a prototype, adjustable, cheap, ready for kids who've never run, never held a ball. A young engineer, glasses, hoodie, grins, clapping his shoulder again, harder this time. "You're a natural, Cortez," he says, disappearing into the chaos, and Miguel stands there, the wrench heavy in his hand, the words sinking in, a natural, not a ghost. The pride flares, fierce and bright, but the shadow twists. 10 years mopping, and now this, all from a faded photo and a late-night talk. Afternoon pulls him into another meeting, a larger room now, its walls lined with screens, its air thick with coffee and sweat. 10 engineers sit around a table, the arm's blueprint glowing, a map of Lucia's filter beside it, sand, shells, valves, a design he knows by heart. Dr. Chen stands, her voice cutting through. Launch prep, prosthetics and filters, global scale. Cortez, your input's core. Miguel shifts, the chair creaking under him, his hands clasped tight, the weight of global hitting him like a stone. Kids with new arms, villages with clean water. His fixes, Lucia's dreams, stretching beyond this lab, beyond Tucson. Materials, he says, the words slow, deliberate. Aluminum holds. Local steel could too, cheaper in some places. Filters, shells work, but charcoal's everywhere. The lead engineer nods, scribbling, and Dr. Chen's eyes sharpen. Practical, test it, she says, and the room moves, a machine he's now a gear in, turning faster than he can grasp. He drives home under a sky ablaze with red and purple, the desert dusk a quiet fire, the truck's engine a lifeline he holds tight. The apartment's alive when he walks in, Rosa at the stove, the smell of roasted chiles and beans wrapping around him, Lucia at the table, her laptop glowing, her voice bright. "Dad, I emailed. Internship next summer, SpaceX tie-in." He sets his keys down, the clink soft, and sinks into a chair, the news a wave he rides with them. "They saw my filter," she says, her grin wide, her pride a mirror of his own. Rosa turns, her smile steady, her hands strong as she sets plates down. "And your treatment's working," she says, her voice a quiet triumph, a twirl in her step he hasn't seen since lupus struck. He holds them both, the beans warm on his tongue, their laughter a balm, but that shadow lingers. Treatment, laptop, job, internship, now this, a chain too perfect, too tied to a bench he sat on by chance. Sleep comes fitful that night, Rosa's warmth beside him, Lucia's trophy glinting in the moonlight, the ceiling cracks staring back. He dreams of arms lifting, water flowing, a hallway stretching endless, Elon's voice whispering remarkable in the dark. Tuesday dawns, and he's back in the lab. Steel tests, filter tweaks, his hands sure, his voice louder. Engineers listening now, not just nodding. By Friday, the arm's $400, the filter's $50. Cheap, scalable, real. Dr. Chen pulls him aside, her tablet dark, her voice low. "Launch is next week, Kenya first, then India. You're presenting." Miguel freezes, the wrench slipping in his grip, the word presenting a weight he can't lift. "Me?" he asks, his throat dry, a knot in his chest. "You made it work," she says, her eyes steady, and walks off, leaving him with the arm, with the fire that's now ablaze he can't contain. Saturday night, Rosa's on the couch, her tea steaming, her smile bright as she rests, stronger, lighter, lupus fading. Lucia's beside her, the laptop open, a video call with MIT glowing on the screen, her voice sharp with plans. Miguel cooks, tortillas, eggs, a meal to hold them together, and listens, the sizzle a rhythm he clings to. "They want my filter there," Lucia says, her eyes wide, and Rosa squeezes her hand, her faith a quiet force. "And your arm, Miguel, it's going to kids," she murmurs, her voice thick, tears brimming. He nods, the shadow twisting. Pride, yes, but fear too, a fear of this fire spreading beyond him, beyond them. A machine he's now a part of, not just a gear but a driver. At SpaceX, Elon's office glows in the dead of night, screens casting a cold light over files. Rosa's recovery charts, Lucia's internship forms, Miguel's launch notes. It's 3 a.m., Saturday fading into Sunday, and he's there, coffee cold, watching footage of Miguel in the lab. His hands on the arm, his voice in the meeting, a janitor turned flame. "He's the spark," Elon mutters, a grin tugging his lips, the folder thick, project night shift, launch phase. He dials his assistant, voice sharp. "Finalize Kenya, prosthetics, filters, Cortez family front and center. Live stream it." The line clicks off, and he stares out at the parking lot, the sodium lights glinting, his mind racing with a vision Miguel can't yet see. A fire he's fanned into a blaze that could change everything. Sunday morning dawns soft over Tucson, the desert sun climbing slow, its light filtering through the blinds in gentle streaks, dusting the apartment with a quiet glow. Miguel's at the kitchen table, his coffee steaming in a chipped mug, the SpaceX folder now a fixture in his mind, its pages worn but its promise real. Rose is on the couch, her suitcase unpacked, her hands steady as she sips tea, her twirl from days ago now a habit, a dance Lupus can't steal anymore. Lucia's beside her, her laptop open, the filter model spinning on the screen, its valves and layers a testament to her fire. A fire Miguel sees in himself, sharper now, unburdened by the years that once bent him. Launch is next week, he says, his voice low, testing the words, the coffee's warmth seeping into his calluses. Kenya first, prosthetics and filters. They want me to present. Rose's eyes widen, her tea pausing mid-sip, and Lucia grins, her braids bouncing. Dad, you're going global, she says, her pride a mirror of his own. But that shadow, that whisper, curls tight, a thread he can't sever. Global, too big, too tied to a night he mopped a hallway and talked about shells. The week blurs, days in the lab stretch long, the arm's aluminum frame now a fleet, filters stacked beside them, their sand and charcoal a quiet promise. Miguel's hands move sure, tweaking joints, testing flows, his voice steady as engineers lean in, their questions sharp but welcome. Load capacity? Filtration rate? He answers, his mechanic past a tide he rides, not fights. Cars fixed under Mexico's sun, machines he mended without books, now arms and water for kids in villages he'll never see. Dr. Chin watches, her tablet glowing, her nods rare but weighty, and by Friday, the lab's a hive, crates packed, screens flashing logistics, Kenya's red dirt a distant dream on a map. You're ready, she says, her voice low, final, and hands him a script, words he's meant to say, a presentation he's never given. He takes it, the paper crisp against his calluses, and drives home under a sky streaked with pink and gold. The desert dusk a quiet fire. The truck's rumble a lifeline he holds tight. Saturday's calm. Rosa cooks, the smell of roasted chiles and beans wrapping around him, her steps light, her smile bright as she twirls by the stove. Lucia's at the table, her laptop humming, a video from MIT glowing. Professors praising her filter, her internship sealed. They're watching the launch, she says, her eyes wide, and Miguel nods, pride ablaze in his chest, but that shadow twists. Treatment, laptop job, internship, now this, a chain too perfect, too tied to a bench he sat on by chance. Sunday night, he's awake, the ceiling cracks staring back, Rosa's warmth beside him, Lucia's trophy glinting in the moonlight. He dreams of arms lifting, water flowing, a hallway stretching endless, Elon's voice whispering, talent shouldn't mop floors in the dark. Monday arrives, sharp and relentless, the launch day breaking over SpaceX with a hum of chaos. Building C's transformed. An auditorium now, its walls lined with screens, its air thick with coffee and tension, cameras rolling, engineers buzzing. Miguel's in a suit borrowed, stiff, the tie a knot he fumbles with, his hands trembling as he grips the script, the words blurring on the page. Dr. Chin finds him backstage, her tablet dark, her voice calm. 5 minutes, Kenya's live. Just talk. He nods, his throat dry, the suit heavy on his shoulders, and steps out, the lights blinding, the crowd a sea of faces. Engineers, execs, strangers watching from screens half a world away. The arm stands beside him, its aluminum gleaming, a filter humming nearby, sand and shells a quiet marvel. He clears his throat, the crackle loud in the mic, and starts, slow, halting, his voice a stranger. This arm, $400 now. For kids, adjustable, grows with M. Local steel, simple. He pauses, the script slipping in his grip, and sets it down, the thudded decision he feels in his bones. I fixed cars, he says, unscripted, his voice steadier now raw. Mexico, 12 years, kept him running cheap. This is that, machines for people, not labs. And this filter, he points, his hand sure, calluses catching the light. My daughter, Lucia, she built it. Sand shells, cleans water anywhere. $50. The crowd shifts, a murmur rising, and screens flash. Kenya live, kids with new arms running, laughing, water flowing clear from filters in red dirt. A boy hugs the camera, his grin wide. Thank you. Miguel's breath catches, tears brimming, the fire in his chest ablaze he can't contain. Rosa's backstage, her twirl a quiet shadow, her hand finding his as he steps off, her voice thick. You did this, Miguel. Lucia's there too, her laptop forgotten, her arms around him, her pride a light he clings to. Across the room, Elon nods, slipping out. No speech, no spotlight, just a steady gaze Miguel catches, a silent, I saw you. The drive home is quiet, the desert night pressing against the truck's windows, the stars cold and distant. The apartment's alive. Rosa cooks, the beans warm on his tongue, Lucia sketches, her filter now a reality. They're sending it to India next, she says, her voice bright, and Rosa twirls, her strength a miracle he feels in his bones. He sinks into a chair, the suit shed, the script crumpled in his pocket, and holds them, the shadow fading, the fire holding steady. Pride, yes, but wonder too, a wonder at this life he's built from a mop and a photo. At SpaceX, Elon's office glows in the dead of night, screens casting a cold light over files. Kenya's footage, Rosa's recovery, Lucia's internship, Miguel's speech. It's 2 a.m., Monday fading into Tuesday, and he's there, coffee cold, watching the boy hug the camera, Miguel's voice echoing for people, not labs. He's the spark, Elon mutters, a grin tugging his lips, the folder thick, Project Night Shift, global phase. He leans back, the chair creaking, and stares out at the parking lot, the sodium lights glinting, his mind racing with what's next. A fire he's fanned into a blaze that's spreading, a vision Miguel's only beginning to see. Tuesday morning creeps over Tucson with a gentle sun, its light spilling through the blinds in soft, golden waves, bathing the apartment in a warmth that feels earned. Miguel's at the kitchen table, his coffee steaming in a chipped mug, the SpaceX folder now a quiet companion in a drawer, its pages worn but its promise lived. Rose is at the stove, her hands steady as she flips tortillas, the sizzle a soft rhythm against the quiet, her twirl now a daily grace. Lupus fading, her strength a miracle stitched into every movement. Lucia's beside him, her laptop open, footage from Kenya spinning on the screen. Kids with new arms running, water flowing clear from filters she dreamed into being. India's next week, she says, her braids still, her voice bright with a fire he knows, his own, refined, unstoppable. He sips his coffee, the bitterness sharp against his tongue, and nods, pride a steady blaze in his chest, the shadow, that whisper. Fading now, a thread he's let go. The week settles into a rhythm. Days in the lab stretch full, not long, the arms fleet growing, filters shipping out, their sand and shells a quiet marvel reaching corners he'll never see. Miguel's hands move sure, tweaking designs, testing flows, his voice clear as engineers lean in, their questions a dialogue he's part of. Durability in heat? Flow under pressure? He answers, his mechanic past a foundation he stands on, cars mended under Mexico's sun. Machines he fixed without books, now arms and water for kids and villages breathing life. Dr. Chin watches, her tablet glowing less often, her nods more frequent, a quiet trust he feels in his bones. By Friday, the lab's a hum of purpose. Crates stack high, screens flash updates, India's green fields a distant promise on a map. Good work, she says, her voice low, steady, and leaves him with the arm, its aluminum frame a testament to his hands, to a fire that's now a steady flame. The drive home is calm, the trucks rumble a comfort under him, the desert dusk painting the sky in streaks of red and purple, a quiet fire he carries inside. The apartment's alive, Rose is at the couch, her tea steaming, her smile bright as she rests, her recovery a light he holds close. Lucia's at the table, her laptop humming, a letter from MIT glowing, full scholarship, her internship blooming into a path she's claimed. They're funding the filter, she says, her eyes wide, and Miguel sinks into a chair, the clink of his keys soft against the formica, pride swelling fierce and bright. Rosa moves to him, her hand on his shoulder, warm and sure. And you, your arms are out there, she murmurs, her voice thick, tears brimming, a twirl in her step as she pulls him up. He holds her, the tortilla's warmth lingering on his tongue, Lucia's laughter a balm, the shadow retreating, a whisper silenced by the life they've built. Saturday unfolds slow. Rosa volunteers at a clinic, her strength a gift she shares, her voice steady as she helps others navigate a system she once feared. Lucia's at a friend's, sketching new dreams, her filter now a reality she's growing beyond. Miguel fixes a shelf, the screwdriver steady in his grip, the wood creaking into place, a small victory he savors. Night falls, and they're together. Beans simmer on the stove, the smell wrapping around them, a tortilla folded on his plate, a meal to hold them close. 6 months ago, he says, his voice low, thick. We were drowning, debt, worry, dust. Rosa nods, her hand finding his, her touch a lifeline. Now this, she whispers, her smile a fragile light, and Lucia grins, her trophy glinting in the corner. God's ways, Rosa says, soft, faithful, and Miguel squeezes her hand, the shadow gone, the fire a steady glow, pride, wonder, a life he's shaped from a mop and a photo. Sunday night, he's awake, not restless. The ceiling cracks a quiet map he's traced 1,000 times. Rosa sleeps beside him, her breathing steady. Lucia's laptop hums faintly from her room, a glow under the door. He rises, steps to the window, the desert night pressing against the glass, the stars sharp and cold. The folder's in his hand, its pages worn, and he opens it, not to read, but to feel its weight a bridge from then to now. A note slips out, tucked deep. Dr. Chen's tablet log, a glimpse he wasn't meant to see. Project Night Shift. Miguel Cortez, spark identified, 11:47 p.m., hallway B, Elon. Someone saw potential in me once. I pay it forward. His breath catches, the words sharp against the dark. A chain unravels. Treatment, laptop, job, internship, launch. All from a night he mopped a floor and talked about shells. Not charity, not chance. Investment, a spark fanned into flame. He sets the folder down, the thud soft in the stillness, and stands there, the desert vast beyond the glass, the stars a quiet witness. Rosa stirs, her voice sleepy. Miguel? Just looking, he murmurs, and climbs back beside her, her warmth a balm, the fire in his chest steady, not blazing, a glow he's claimed. Monday dawns, and he's in the lab. Arms shipped to India, filters flow out, his hands sure, his voice clear, engineers listening, a man who's more than he was. The drive home is quiet, the trucks rumble a steady pulse, the desert dusk a fire he carries home. To Rosa's twirl, Lucia's dreams, a life he's built from dust and spark. At SpaceX, Elon's office glows in the dead of night, screens casting a cold light over files. India's logistics, Rosa's final recovery charts, Lucia's scholarship, Miguel's latest notes. It's 1 a.m., Sunday fading into Monday, and he's there, coffee cold, watching footage of Miguel in the lab, his hands on the arm, his voice in the quiet, a janitor turned flame. Phase 4, he mutters, a grin tugging his lips, the folder thick, Project Night Shift, expansion. He dials his assistant, voice sharp. Find more, hidden sparks everywhere. Cortez was the first. The line clicks off, and he stares out at the parking lot, the sodium lights glinting, his mind racing with a vision Miguel's only beginning to see. A flame that's spread, a fire that won't fade. Monday morning rises over Tucson with a steady sun, its light pouring through the blinds in warm, unbroken streams, washing the apartment in a glow that feels like home. Miguel's at the kitchen table, his coffee steaming in a chipped mug. The SpaceX folder now a quiet relic in a drawer, its pages worn but its promise woven into their lives. Rosa's at the stove, her hands sure as she shapes tortillas, the sizzle a soft hymn against the quiet, her twirl a daily ritual. Lupus a shadow she's outrun, her strength a miracle he no longer questions. Lucia's beside him, her laptop open, footage from India spinning on the screen. Villages with clear water, kids with new arms lifting kites, her filter and his prosthetics a quiet marvel across oceans. They're scaling it, Africa, Asia, next year, she says, her braids still, her voice bright with a fire he's passed down, his mechanic hands, her engineer's mind, a legacy he sees in every frame. He sips his coffee, the bitterness a comfort now, and nods, pride a steady flame in his chest, the shadow, that whisper, gone, a thread burned away by the life they've built. The week unfolds calm. Days in the lab stretch purposeful, not endless, the arms fleet a reality, filters a lifeline, their sand and shells reaching corners he'll never walk. Miguel's hands move steady, refining designs, testing flows, his voice clear as engineers lean in, their questions a partnership he's claimed. Weight distribution? Flow in sandstorms? He answers, his mechanic past a rock he stands on. Cars fixed under Mexico's sun. Machines he mended without books. Now arms and water for kids and villages thriving. Dr. Chen stops by, her tablet dark, her voice soft. India's a success. Your work's the spine. He nods, the wrench in his hand a friend, not a burden, and drives home under a sky streaked with red and gold. The desert dusk a fire he carries inside. The trucks rumble a heartbeat he knows by heart. The apartment's alive. Rosa's on the couch, her tea steaming, her smile bright as she rests, her recovery a light he holds close. Lucia's at the table, her laptop humming, a blueprint glowing. Her next project, a pump for dry lands, MIT stamp in the corner. They're funding this too, she says, her eyes wide, and Miguel sinks into a chair, the clink of his keys soft against the formica, pride swelling fierce and warm. Rosa moves to him, her hand on his shoulder, steady and sure. And you, your arms are everywhere, she murmurs, her voice thick, tears brimming, a twirl in her step as she pulls him up. He holds her, the tortilla's warmth lingering on his tongue, Lucia's laughter a balm, the fire in his chest aglow he's made his own, pride, wonder, a life he's forged from dust and spark. Saturday unfolds slow. Rosa volunteers again, her strength a gift she shares, her voice steady as she guides others through a system she's mastered. Lucia's at MIT for a weekend seminar, her filter a reality she's growing beyond, her trophy glinting in the corner like a star. Miguel fixes a faucet, the wrench steady in his grip, the drip silenced with a twist, a small victory he savors. Night falls, and he's alone. Rosa at a clinic late, Lucia away, the apartment quiet but full, beans simmering on the stove, their smell a thread to every night they've shared. He steps to the window, the desert night pressing against the glass, the stars sharp and cold. The folder's in his hand, its note from Dr. Chin tucked deep, Elon. Someone saw potential in me once. I pay it forward. He reads it again, the words a key to a chain he's traced. Treatment, laptop, job, internship, launch. A spark fanned into flame from a night he mopped a hallway and talked about shells. He sets the folder down, the thud soft in the stillness, and stands there. The desert vast beyond the glass, the stars a quiet witness. Rosa comes home, her steps light, her smile bright as she twirls into his arms, her warmth a balm. "Good day?" she asks, her voice a lifeline. "Good life," he murmurs, holding her close, the fire in his chest steady, not blazing, a glow he's claimed. Lucia calls later, her voice crackling through the phone. MIT's buzzing, her pumps greenlit, her dreams a fire he's fueled. Sunday dawns, and they're together. Tortillas sizzle, coffee steams, the apartment a haven they've built. 10 years, he says, his voice low, thick. I was invisible, dust mops late nights. Rosa nods, her hand in his, her touch a rock. Now this, she whispers, her smile alight, and Lucia grins, her laptop humming. You're the spark, Dad, she says, soft, sure, and he squeezes Rosa's hand, the fire a steady glow, pride, wonder, a life he's shaped from a cart and a photo. Monday dawns, and he's in the lab. Arms shipped to Asia, filters flow out, his hands sure, his voice clear, engineers listening, a man who's everything he wasn't. The drive home is quiet, the trucks rumble a steady pulse, the desert dusk a fire he carries home. To Rosa's twirl, Lucia's dreams, a life he's forged from dust and spark. The ceiling cracks are just cracks now, the stars just stars, the shadow burned away, the fire a flame that stays. At SpaceX, Elon's office glows in the dead of night, screens casting a cold light over files. Asia's logistics, Rosa's final charts, Lucia's pump, Miguel's latest notes. It's 2 a.m., Sunday fading into Monday, and he's there, coffee cold, watching footage of Miguel in the lab, his hands on the arm, his voice in the quiet, a janitor turned flame. First spark, he mutters, a grin tugging his lips, the folder thick, project night shift, legacy phase. He leans back, the chair creaking, and stares out at the parking lot, the sodium lights glinting, his mind racing with a vision Miguel now sees. A fire that's spread, a flame that won't fade, a legacy that began with a squeaky cart and a faded photo. Ever felt like you're pushing through the dark, unseen, while the world rushes by? Ever wondered what it takes for someone to see the spark in you? Not just glance, but truly see? This story started with a janitor, a mop, and a late night. Now it's arms for kids, water for villages, a family remade. It's proof that talent can hide anywhere, waiting for a chance to burn bright. If that hits home, let us know. This tale flipped the script from dust to flame, and it's all here. What's your spark? Where are you reading from? Drop it below. I'd love to hear your story.